Hey y'all, it's your girl Jada Rain and welcome back to my YouTube channel. As you can see by the title, today I'm going to talk a little bit about my move in the middle of a pandemic. So yeah, I'm just going to be giving you guys advice about how I moved state from state, some of the struggles that I've faced, and just my overall story. And if you're interested in a little bit of vlog footage as well, go ahead and keep on watching. Where do I begin? Well, originally I am from Fort Wayne, Indiana, and I went to school in Bloomington, Indiana, so I went to Indiana University. I had never really even considered California as a place that I wanted to move initially. I was like, oh, I want to go to New York, that's my dream. And then I feel like what really kind of changed the trajectory of wanting to move to California was when I did an internship out here my junior year of college. And so that really opened my eyes up to California. I got to firsthand see what the entertainment industry was like, different avenues that I could take, and for me that felt like the start of something big. It felt like where I belonged. So actually that internship and that experience was about 4 or 5 months, so I was out here for a long extended period of time, got to know the lay of the land pretty quickly, and so yeah, that kind of just started this dream of I'm gonna move to California. Even though that was what kind of catapulted the idea to come here, I had already had an interest in moving. I was like listen, I'm from, okay, Fort Wayne is small, but it felt small to me. There wasn't a lot of entertainment opportunities. I'm like, what the hell am I gonna do here for a job? I think even as a child, I had not a lot of attachment to being home. I was always somebody that liked being gone. As I'll get into a little bit later, if you're looking to make a big move like this, you really have to be sure and committed and know that this is exactly what you want to do. Fast forward to my senior year of school, I was about to graduate, right? And so then of course you start getting those questions like, what am I going to do next? You know, what kind of job am I going to have? Like, where am I going to start the rest of my life? I definitely struggled. You know, it's hard for me to admit this, I feel like, but you know, I was seeing so many people on social media who already knew what their next steps were. So many people had gotten into graduate school, and I had told myself, after 4 fucking years of this, I'm not trying to do any more school. Like, I was not trying to go back to school. People were getting into graduate school. People had their dream jobs already before they even graduated. And I definitely went into panic mode. And I definitely started to compare my journey to other people. And I was getting fearful because I was like, I didn't really have much of a plan yet. And I was applying to jobs, but I feel like the #1 problem I had with applying to jobs out of state personally, this is not like, it may be different for other people, was that I didn't have a California address. I had experience in California, but I didn't have an address. So I think a lot of times I don't think people really thought that I would make that move, and so I think sometimes that can discourage employers. Like I said, everybody's story is different. Those were just some of the roadblocks that I saw personally. So I already had a little bit of money saved, and I was like, you know what? Maybe I should really take this, you know, this little idea and really take it seriously and really just move. Like, what's stopping me? I ain't got no kids. I don't have nothing that's keeping me here besides family, of course. That's when the research kind of begun. So originally when I was looking for places to stay, I was looking for like, I mean, I didn't have, and so I'm going to say this, don't have your expectations so high. Don't expect, I mean, like I said, everybody's financial situation is different, but I did not expect a luxury apartment. In fact, I already knew that was going to be out of my price range. So, you know, sometimes you got to humble yourself a little bit. And I just was trying to look at what was affordable to me. So, I mean, I was looking at studios. That was it, because the addition of a 1-bedroom was adding a couple hundred on there, and that was not what I was trying to spend. So I started looking at studios. One thing I'll say about if you're going to move to a place like Cali or even a place like New York, do your research on different areas. I was kind of lucky because I already knew people out here, so it was easy for me to ask people like, what are some inexpensive places to live that are maybe centrally located, like questions like that. And for me, transportation, because I did sell my car.
Hold on. I said, hold up, wait a minute, something ain't right.
I'm gonna get to this in a minute. You know, what's close to metro lines. Also, one thing that I wish I would have looked into, and I would impart this to you guys, what does the sales tax look like in different areas? Because sales tax is high as fuck out here, but I'm telling you, sometimes you have to look at different areas So those are things that I wish, there are a couple things I wish I would have asked, but at the very least I was trying to see what areas I should really, consider and how far things would be from those areas. So I started looking. I think I looked at Koreatown, I looked at Sherman Oaks, I looked at the Bay Area, I looked at things a little further outside of like LA, which is what most people look at when they try to move to California. So I started to look on the outside because things tend to be a lot cheaper. You gotta commute, but it's a little more affordable. I was finding that even like a studio was high as hell when I tell y'all. So I'm thinking, first of all, $800. I was seeing things for like $800 a month. And then when I would look at the reviews, because I have bookmark pages for apartments.com. I have bookmark pages, Zillow, apartments.com, all these different, sites trying to see where I could stay at. And I feel like when you're trying to look remotely for a place to live, it's just a scary feeling. Like, I was reading these reviews and y'all, hopefully I can insert them right here or something like that. Those reviews were absolutely horrified, like horror stories people were putting on there. At that point, I was feeling a bit overwhelmed because I just felt like there were so many different factors and I wasn't able to view these places in person. So I'm like, what the hell am I doing? And I didn't necessarily give up on the idea, but I was really starting to feel a little like, I don't know. So this is what kind of changed the trajectory of that journey for me. I knew, so they're my two roommates now. Shout out to them if you're watching. They had already moved out here a year before me. We actually went to school together at Indiana University, and so they were, looking for a roommate, and I jumped on it immediately because I felt like it was going to be a lot easier to move in with people that I already knew to a degree rather than just random people or trying to find somebody on Craigslist, because people even use that shit anymore, but y'all know what I mean. Just random people. So that worked out tremendously. It helped me because they got to go look at things in person, and I actually got a feel for what the places were that we were looking at. And also I got a lot more for my money as far as living arrangements. So I do recommend roommates, although I understand that everybody may not have the luxury of knowing somebody already. So this is what I would say. I think way before you move and decide to take that step, try to get to know people out there. I feel like one of the best resources I've seen, Facebook groups. And there's actually one in particular that I would like to shout out. It's LA Black Book Housing, I think. I'll put a link in the description box. And that's such a great resource. Had I known about it before I moved, I would have checked that out too. But there's so many people on there, especially if you're a Black creative who's looking for roommates. They're subleasing apartments for way less than you would originally see them listed as. They're even selling furniture if you need to buy furniture. But it's really nice because then you can get to know people on there that are looking for roommates, and it may seem a little less stressful. Because trust me, I think anytime you're going to a new place, you don't know the people who you're going to be living with, it's stressful. And I guess that's kind of a part of the journey, but I definitely would say use Facebook Marketplace, Facebook groups to kind of like get to know people. Once I decided, okay, I have roommates now, like this is a thing. List out your pros and cons before you decide to move anywhere. That's what automatically pushed my decision, even though I was in the pandemic. This was kind of towards the pandemic hadn't gotten as bad as it was. And for me, I felt like the pandemic was already in several different states, and I felt like I never knew when the pandemic was going to be done with. And now I had the means and the money to try to make a move, so I wanted to make that move now before things got worse. And also because that was kind of the biggest and most concrete plan that I had. So I would just say, and I advise anybody who's deciding to move out of their parents' house or move from state to state, pros and cons. And don't force yourself to make a decision that you may not be ready for. It's okay to take your time. I think everybody's comfortability is different, and when it comes to a move like this, don't rush it. But anyways, that aside, eventually start getting my stuff together. So then that's the thing, it felt really last minute because I only had a couple months to start to figure out like and my lease was gonna be up in the summertime, I was like, I gotta start getting my shit together. Like, what am I gonna do? How am I gonna get there? So that brings me to the next part of the story. Yes, I sold my car, and I know what y'all thinking. That was probably dumb as shit because it's a drive. It's not like New York where you can take the subway everywhere, you know, that kind of thing. For me, it was the best decision. So my car, you know, most people pack their stuff in their car, drive all the way out here with whatever they can fit in their car, and that's how they get here. My car was a 2006 Saturn Vue, baby, and she was on her last leg. She was not making the drive all the way out there. She was barely making the drive 2 hours to Indianapolis, so I knew she wasn't gonna make it to California. Instead of having a car that's going to be a financial liability, both insurance wise and both, I mean, for me to keep her going, because I was putting so much money in it already, I was like, you know what, sell the car, get your money's worth, and just keep it pushing. So I sold my car again on Facebook Marketplace, and that's something I would definitely consider before you're about to move. Try to sell your stuff. Like, if you have enough time to get that kind of stuff together, First of all, Facebook Marketplace is probably faster than any other, like, Etsy or eBay or any of those kind of places. I think you should definitely think about that when you're moving, because rather than just throwing that stuff away that you can't take, you might be able to get a little bread for your trip. Also, be careful with that, especially with selling big items. Selling my car was, y'all, it was just stressful. From people trying to get over on you. Like, I had a crazy woman that she low-key had a bunch of issues as far as like conning folks, trying to buy my car and come all late at night. Like, you really gotta be careful. But eventually, you know, after a while, I was feeling like I'm not gonna sell this car, and I was getting, you know, worried. Eventually, I did sell it the day before I was about to leave. So then, once I sold my car, there was also the question of, was I going to take anything with me? Because I could have just flown to California and then that would have been it, with nothing or whatever I could fit in my suitcases. And I don't know, I didn't want to do that personally, so I started looking at quotes for shipping my stuff, because I heard people will like movers. Now, I didn't go into it seriously. I was just kind of like, you know what, let me get a couple quotes. If it's too expensive, then it is what it is. Like, I just have to leave the shit here. I was looking at some quotes, $8,000, $9,000. I wasn't paying that. I just wasn't gonna pay that to move my stuff. Like, I told my family they could just ship me shit in increments as far as like little stuff, and then I'd have to leave stuff if I was gonna spend. I wasn't gonna spend that. I ended up finding a company that was gonna do it for way less, and something that was a lot more affordable. And this is where the issues started. The day I had to move out of my little house in Bloomington, the truck came to pick up my stuff, because I was gonna go to Fort Wayne, visit my family for about a week or two, and then fly out to California. Truck came and got my stuff. Now, first, let me run this back because I didn't say this part. I wish I would have had them come and give me a quote in person. With coronavirus going on, COVID, there were a lot of places that were not, they weren't giving you estimates in person. So I had to describe to them what stuff I had. And this place actually, like I said, had the lower quote, but that was one thing that I wish would have been different, was that I wish they would actually came to my house to assess all that I had. I also was under the assumption that because they had a truck come pick my stuff up, that this truck was going to be driving, you know, all the way to California. Come to find out, there was a reason why it was so cheap. So they shipped my stuff. I guess they basically broke it apart, cellophaned it, and shipped it. I'm going to get to why that was an issue a little later, and why shipping was an issue, because I think it was definitely a learning curve for me. You gonna say bye? You gonna say bye? You can't get in there. You have to get out. And then from there, I went home to Fort Wayne, Indiana for a week or two. Really enjoyed myself. Got to see my family one last time before I left. And then I flew to California. here. My stuff wasn't scheduled to get here till the week, like a couple days after me. And I had a job already in terms of, I didn't have the job of my dreams, but for me it was all about getting security until I got the job of my dreams. So I did transfer my retail job, and that's something that I think anybody should look into. If you want to make the move and you quite haven't gotten the job that you wanted, I think it's always great to see, speak to your HR, and if you've been there long enough, a lot of times they'll go ahead and transfer you, and at least that's some money in your pocket so you're not completely going without. Days went by and I still hadn't got my stuff. So then I'm panicking because where is my stuff? I called the moving company, and come to find out, this is where the issue was. With shipping my stuff like that. Once it leaves their hands, they're sending it from place to place to place to get it all the way to California, so they start to lose track of where your stuff was. So that right there was putting me in panic mode, because I did have some things that were like very personal to me in these boxes and stuff. And yeah, I was freaking out. I was freaking out hard. So then eventually my stuff came, but then the parts to my bed were missing. So I didn't have a bed for a while, because my thing was, for all that, I might as well not spend money, and just had no bed, and got a bed eventually. I ended up having to file a claim with the company, and I mean, they couldn't put my bed together because there were no parts and they couldn't find the parts. Luckily, it was something like that instead of something that was like really personal to me, or something, from my family or anything like that. I mean, it kind of worked out, because they had to buy your girl a new bed. Would I do it again? I'll say this much: I like having my furniture here and not having to have started from scratch, even though, to be honest, here we got a little alley over here, people be dropping furniture off all the time, so it really wouldn't have been no thing to get new furniture for free probably. But I had invested so much money in the stuff that I had, I really didn't want to let it go if I didn't absolutely have to. So I don't know if I would do it again or if I wouldn't. Another thing where you gotta weigh out the pros and cons of it. I don't think it was completely horrible. It's just, it was definitely a complicated process for sure. Fast forward to now, what I've been doing. In the middle, the pandemic has made it hard. I'd be lying if I said that it didn't. I think it impacts so much of my life now, to where when I first came to LA, there was so much for me to do and experience and busy myself with, and so much networking I could do. And now it feels like everything's on hold. I'm always in my house, and while I understand for safety, it's been difficult, especially with meeting friends and meeting new people. Most of the new people I meet are at work, which is not a problem. I think I've learned that I have to open myself up to the possibility of meeting people in places I would not expect. And also, like my roommate and my friend was saying, to use social media more often, to be a lot more. I've joined Clubhouse and like utilizing different forms like that to meet people with like and interests, and not be, I think sometimes we're like, ooh, I don't want to meet people on social media, like I don't know them. And while it's good, especially here, to be protective of yourself, I think sometimes you often have to remain a little bit more open in terms of, meeting new people. I think I was the type of person, I was so, and still am, I was so caught up back home. I miss people back home, and so it was hard for me to like transition being here, because sometimes it gets a little lonely. My family's not here, my friends aren't here, like old friends. So I've had to learn how to establish a life on my own, be comfortable with my own company. Something that I'm struggling with recently is how to kind of navigate that space. Although that's been difficult for me, I think it's given me so much time to like discover myself, have this time to be intimate with myself. And I think it's always hard, no matter the circumstances, pandemic or not pandemic, to start your life in a new place and try to establish new roots and in some place that's unfamiliar to you. So it's no secret that entertainment, production, those jobs are being severely affected right now too. I mean, any jobs, we're all being affected. So it has made the job hunt, if I'm being transparent, really difficult. But I will say, in between working retail, I pick up production jobs here and there. I try to remain open to some freelance opportunities, and I think now a lot more remote positions are opening up, so there's some opportunities still there. It's just learning to be comfortable, I don't know, with the way things are right now. I just want to kind of get into my overall advice that I would personally give, just in general, and especially on a psychological level. I like to explore the neighborhood. I like to know, who I'm living by and who's around. It just gives you a sense of like home, because you feel like you know your turf, you know where you at. But one big piece of advice I would give if you're gonna move from state to state, and this is something I'm still working on, so I'm not preaching, but I would say you have to have an immense amount of faith. And if you're not a religious person, take that as you want, whether that be faith in yourself, however you want to take that. You have to have so much perseverance, so much faith, and I would say so much commitment to, this is the decision that I made, I stand by it, and even in hard times, I know this was the best decision for me. When you go on social media and you see people make moves, it seems so easy, right? Because you see, a couple shots of them doing cool things, or even myself, I ain't gonna post the parts of me that's struggling right now. But it is a struggle. I think that doesn't tell the whole story of moving state to state. It takes so much, I think, mental dexterity to try to restart your life in that way. So like I said, have faith in yourself, encourage yourself every step of the way, really pour into your mental health, because that's another part of it people don't talk about. I hope that this video was helpful. I know it was kind of long, but there was so much that I wanted to cover in my story. And again, I'm 5-6 months in. Who knows where my story is going to go from here, and I have faith that it will go in a positive direction. Yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the comment section below. I will try to answer them the best that I can. Stay safe out there, and I will see y'all in the next video.